Inverted thirds are a really cool interval to get under your fingers. A good way to kind of navigate through a chord progression or understand a key. And so it's called an inverted third because it's an interval of a third, so root, second, third, but you're taking that third and you're dropping an octave below. So on the guitar, what that looks like, if you were to think you're in the key of A, and let's take an A blues, for instance, so we're thinking kind of A dominant seventh tonality. I'm tuned a half step low, just to let you know. So there's my A. So what that looks like if we use kind of the A root note as our starting guide, a third underneath that, so an inverted third is right there, right? So I've got A, and A's major third, an octave lower, is there. A, B, C sharp is the major third, octave down from C sharp is there. There we are. There's that shape. So you probably recognize it from a major bar chord that you've learned, right? If you look at an A major bar chord, just take two notes out of that, and they're there. Similarly, if you move up to the B, which would be a minor chord, you would have this shape for B's third, which is a minor third. So you can quickly see there's a really easy shape to keep track of there, and that is major third has your finger on, say, the G string up one fret higher than the one on the E string, and when you go to a minor, they're on the same fret. So it's really the only two shapes you really need to learn for this. But they're really flexible, and you can kind of get around a key really well. So let's just look at A7 and where those shapes line up. So if we're in A7, we're thinking Mixolydian. So for that, it would mean that we are in D major, if you want to look at the major scale derivative. So we're going to go up. We have A, which is a major, B, which is a minor, C sharp, which is a minor, D, which is a major, E, which is going to be minor, F sharp, which is going to be minor, G, which will be major, and then A again, right? Those are the kind of shapes you can get around on. Similarly, there are shapes that are paired on the D and B strings, and they're the exact same shapes as are on the G and E strings. So again, if you start with an A, right? So what to do with that over a blues? Well, you want to concentrate on those pairs, those inverted thirds, that have that represent intervals over the chord you're currently on that makes sense. So for instance, in A, let's start with that. So we have here, the two notes we have here are the root and the major third. That fits well, right? Because an A dominant seventh chord is root, major third, fifth, and flat seven. So we've got root, major third. Those are totally kind of above board. If you go up to the next one here, not really a great fit. Why? Because we have that fourth there, and the fourth is going to clash over top of that major third. You generally don't want to throw in, always exceptions to the rule, but you don't want to throw in a note that is one semitone above one of the notes in your chord. Exceptions exist for sure. But in this case, you don't really want to do it unless you're passing through this, right? If you move up one more, we're going to go there. That one works because we've got major third, fifth, right? So those are two more chord tones. Now if we go up to here, again, not the greatest pick because we've got that fourth in there, right? That's the fourth of A. If we go to that one, that's going to clash with that major third. Go up to the next one. We're here. That actually works pretty well. Why? Because this is the flat 7 of A, and this is the 5 of A. So we've got two more chord tones. Now we go up to this one here, and it works well as well. It's got an A in it, which obviously works. And then it's got the F sharp, which is the 6th of A. And over the context of a dominant 7th chord, that functions as a 13. And those are totally legal chord tones to be using. So that will work. It's not technically in the bass chord that we're using, it's just an extension, but it works. No clashing there. Okay, and then we've got this one, which again, we're looking at another extension that's pretty easy on the ears, which is a 9, and then the flat 7. So that one works. Now it doesn't scream A7 because they're two extensions that aren't necessarily spelling out the chord, but they work. And then we're back up to A. So we've got this one, this one, this one, this one, that one, that all work over the A. Just the ones you want to avoid, this, right? Because we got that fourth in there. This one, because we got the fourth there. Now you can certainly use those when you're passing through. So if you were going from here, you can come from here, right? Totally works. And as you can see, when you're moving up and down through these, some of them are really easy shifts because it's the same shape you're just moving up. When you're going from this position to here, or this position to here, or this position to here, it's the same shape, right? Which gives you a lot of possibilities. You can move chromatically if you want, right? If you're working in a key that has open strings available to you. So A would have, this E string would be the fifth of fifth of A. So that's totally a legal note for you to hit that's not going to clash with your A chord. So you can use that as a pull-off, which I beat this idea to death myself. But it's really great, which is, right? And so what I was doing there is moving chromatically, right? So all I'm doing there is knowing these shapes, knowing which ones I can kind of accentuate, and then I'm moving between them chromatically while pulling off to the E string. That's go halfway to here. Right, I'm hitting this one because I'm passing through it. I can pass through it, I just can't land on it and really make it home there, but I can. Right, now when you change chords, the grouping of notes that you can use, or of those inverted thirds, changes. In a blues, there's going to be a change because you're going from one dominant seventh chord to another dominant seventh chord in this case. So you're not using the exact same scale. You're not using A mixolydian over a D. You're using D mixolydian. So one note changes, right? Which is that note comes down to here because you need what was the major third of A has to come down to become the flat 7 of D, right? But if you look at this, it's the same thing on D, right? So you've got basically the same framework you can use. You just have to use D as your reference point. And you probably don't want to just suddenly, I mean, you can certainly go from and then, but sometimes doing the exact same thing and just shifting up, which is, I mean, the easiest thing in the world to do on a guitar, but it gets a little cliched sounding. So you probably want to start working on staying in the same area and just switching to the context of A or D or later E if you're going to get that far in the same area you're on. So for instance, in the difference between an A and then the D would be here, right? So in D, these two work well. I mean, you probably heard, what's that? Stevie Ray's got that tune. Well, a billion guys have a tune like that, but Off Sky is Crying, which is like, I'll do it in A. Right, which is that's just those inverted thirds. And that's that pair from A, which basically is just making it a 13th chord. You've got flat 7, 5, and you got root 13. When you go to D, right, that wouldn't work as well over the A because that's the fourth that clashes and you want the major third in the A. So when you're doing that, you can kind of use these as ways to guide yourself through different chords and move around the fretboard. It's really good. A great example of using this approach to play something melodic is Danny Gatton, who, if you don't know Danny Gatton, seriously, I'm not kidding, go out and listen to everything he ever did because he was just insanely good. And the tune Nacho Blues, which is off Unfinished Business, at the beginning and the head of that, he does a really cool thing. I've seen him remember, it's been a long time, but he plays something like right, and it's a really cool melody, but he's kind of switching up single notes and throwing in a lot of those inverted thirds, right? So he's in A, so he's, right? So he's using all those legal ones I was talking about before. And then right? Even that's just like anyway, I love that stuff. So that's kind of one way to do it. Like I was saying, in the chicken picking country stuff, it's really good. I find an approach that's good for this because you're skipping strings is to use pick and then a finger. Usually for me, it's middle finger for those. Right, so that way you can hit them at the same time without having to scrape across the other string. Just, and you also have that you can offset them to do the kind of the. So hopefully that's useful for you. Again, one of my favorite keys to play around with that in is E, because it's got the E and the B string you can pull off to, right, in that key. A is also pretty good too. B is not a bad choice for that too. If you're not pulling off to open strings, I mean, obviously it works in any key. So try moving around through a blues, changing from the 1 dominant 7th to the 4 dominant 7th to start, back and forth between those two to see how you get through it. If you want to hear how I use this kind of in a live band context, I've got a single I released a little while ago called Twang Strut live at Limestone City. It's an original tune we recorded at the Limestone City Blues Festival last year. And I use this technique in it a lot, along with some other chicken picking stuff. And back when we could tour and play live gigs. So if you've got any questions about this, hopefully I can help you out. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Certainly got time to do so, given we're trapped off the road with the COVID-19 situation going on. So hope everyone out there is doing all right, and I will see you again soon.